The following program is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not to be considered legal advice. Fraudsters Radio was created to expose the many scams and frauds that have so infected society today. Scammers, fraudsters, and rip-off artists abound, whether it's scamming homeowners with bogus foreclosure relief services, dating fraud, incompetent lawyers, or consumer rip-offs. It's high time the public has a voice. If you work in a profession that deals with fraud, or if you believe you were or are a victim of fraud, you now have a radio listening public that wants to hear from you. Please feel free to message us through our Fraudsters Radio Facebook page, and we may have you on the show as a guest. If you'd like to call in for today's show, the number is 646-668-8512.
And welcome to Fraudsters Radio. I'm Lori Z., and I am here with Storm Bradford, owner of Mortgage Fraud Examiners. He's my co-host. I'm a radio host and consumer advocate. And Storm, before we start talking, just to let you know, we had a great show last week. Sorry that we missed you. I have the same guest coming back. His name is D.Anthony Miles. He's a Ph.D., and he's going to be talking about diploma mills and state college degrees, so it should be pretty interesting. Now tell me, how are you doing, and how was your weekend?
I'm doing fine. How about you? You're the one who had your little
the medical
procedure.
Issues?
How'd that work out?
Well, so far they didn't find anything, so I guess that's good. And I've actually been feeling a little bit better, so that's kind of a good sign as well. So I've just been kind of taking it easy. They're going to run some additional tests, and I should know again in a week. But the bummer part, Storm, was my regular doctor. I just found out from his office that he's leaving the practice that he works for, because I'm finding out that most doctors don't own their own practices anymore, and he's just going to be working at the hospital, which kind of leaves me either trying to find another doctor, because I want my doctor, or seeing a nurse practitioner. So should be kind of interesting, but I was disappointed to hear that today. So, it's kind of like the medical companies on and insurance, they just don't want to pay these doctors. It's, kind of like when patients complain about how they have to pay the co-pays and deductibles, and they have to fight with the insurance companies. I don't think what they realize on the other side is that the doctors have to fight for what they're supposed to getting paid as well. And, that's a situation where I can tell you my other half, who was a doctor years ago, had to actually sue one or two of the insurance companies under contract to try and get his money back that he was owed. And so that's, to me, sort of like fraud, isn't it? Because if it's in a contract and they don't pay, what do? So people should realize doctors have the same problems that the patients do.
Well, the medical industry is going south because of Obamacare. I mean, if you talk to the majority of physicians and nurses that are, in practice today, they'll tell you that flat out. I mean, it's horrible what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends that moved from Canada, but they said, everybody there gets it, but they moved here because they thought America would be better. And I don't know. It seems to me if people could afford it, like a lot of these big surgeries or even these people who have cancer here, supposedly there are cures, but they're in other countries like Germany, so you'd have to, but it could be cheaper, from what I understand, to go to Germany and get treated for something and come back than it would be to put through your own insurance here in the United States.
Or stay here, pay a lot of money, and die.
Yeah, that's what's happening, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, a lot of people are going to other countries for treatments, and they work. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that had end-stage cancer 10 years ago or so, and they're alive today because of some of the protocols that they use in Germany and places like that.
Yeah. I want to share with you, too. I won't go too much into my procedure, but before they knocked me out with anesthesia, it was almost like a football team, because the doctor's there, the anesthesiologist is there, there's a couple nurses there, and so all of a sudden, like, they have my name on a big screen, and they call out my name, and then like each person calls out. I don't know if they were calling that like who they were or what they did, because I was starting to go under. And at the end, they clap. And so when I came out of the anesthesia, which was very quickly, like years ago, it would take me an hour or two. I was out of that. I mean, in 10 minutes, I was pretty much awake. And I said, "What was that?" And they go, "Well, we have a protocol now to go through everything that's on the computer, everything about your procedure, and and then this way, I guess they record it so that no mistakes can be made." Because I heard not too long ago, I believe in the Tampa area, one of the hospitals removed the wrong leg from a guy or the wrong toe. And so, you hear about people going into the hospital marking an X if it's an arm or a leg, like X, exit out, and then, no, and then yes on the one that they're doing something on, because they reverse the X-rays sometimes.
Well, I'll tell you, I got my wife, she's been a nurse. For 40 some odd years. And so I got her some work as a legal nurse consultant. And doctors send her, medical records to review. And I mean, it's striking the types of mistakes. I mean, I help her with it, and I mean, in reading some of these records and seeing what was going on, it's horrible.
It is. Interestingly, I read on Facebook last night, I thought it was kind of interesting, and I don't remember what they called it now because it was late last night, but some doctor somewhere in the United States started wearing a cap, a surgical cap, with his name and his title. I think he was the anesthesiologist, for example. And it started a trend in the United States, supposedly, where more and more of these hospital workers, when they're in surgery, are wearing the surgical caps with their name and their title, especially when you have a major surgery and there may be a lot of people in there. Because what they were finding out was not everybody who's there has worked together before when they're doing a surgery. So they may be asking an intern, for example, instead of the doctor, to go ahead and do something because they don't all know who each other is. So people were making fun of it at first, but now they're going, wait, that's a really good idea. So you can say anesthesiologist, and the guy, it's on his cap, and they could recognize each other and therefore eliminate a lot of error. And I thought that was a really good idea.
Well, it's funny, one of the 10 leading causes of death in the United States is going to the hospital.
Yeah, I've heard that. Is it malpractice or negligence?
In the hospital. I know about, I guess it's been 25, 30 years ago, but all of these doctors went on strike. And the death rate plummeted.
Because less people were going to the hospital.
Less people were going to the hospital, less people were having operations. I mean, it's striking some of the things that go on when people are being operated on, going in for simple procedures. We had a client I was talking to the other day. Her mother went in for some outpatient stuff, and she's been in intensive care now for about 2 weeks.
Okay. Well,
so you don't go in for an outpatient procedure and then end up in the hospital for 2 weeks. I really can't get into what happened, but I mean, just being in the intensive care for 2 weeks. A lot of people go to hospitals and pick up MRSA, that deadly bacteria that they can't cure. They go in, they get sepsis, they get all types of things and end up dying just by being in the hospital.
Yeah, I read articles on that which said that's true, that they say that's why they keep the hospital so cold, because MRSA can't thrive well in cold. But yeah, you've got all these diseases and things going in, and then who wants to stay? When I went in, I wasn't sure. You remember, I was nervous. I thought maybe they would be keeping me in the hospital, and they didn't do that. But it was cold, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Well, think about it. You're going into a sick factory. You got all these people that are sick, and now what you do is you go into that sick factory. So, it's just crazy, and it's obviously there has to be more precautions and stuff like that, because the lawsuits are getting out of sight. I hear stories all the time of people that have gone in for surgeries. And not only, the old adage is that. What do you want first, the good news or the bad news? Well, give me the bad news. Well, the bad news is we cut off the wrong leg. The good news is you didn't have cancer in the first place. So, it's those types of things that worry you to death. And, I just know that, it's just, I had a great aunt that lived to be 105. And I asked her one time, I said, "Hey, Nellie," I said, "what do you contribute to your long life?" And she says, "You stay the hell out of those hospitals. If there's nothing wrong with you, they'll find something. So just stay out."
Yeah. Well, that kind of goes true here, too, in the Tampa area. I've been to doctors where, and I'll tell you a story, this is years ago, probably 10 years ago. I was in an accident years ago, had a problem with my right arm and hand, like with the nerve activating, and my fingers would swell up all the time. And they couldn't figure out exactly what was wrong. But, my own doctors back up north where I'm from basically said, no surgery can help with this. This was at the time. This is over 20 years ago. Nothing's going to really help. And so when I went to another doctor when I moved here, probably 10, 12 years ago, and the first thing I saw when I got up to the doctor's office was the red Corvette pulled up in the doctor's parking. Okay, and then the doctor was in his mid-40s, so I'm thinking midlife crisis. I brought at least 3 inches of paperwork from my past medical history. 5 minutes later, I'm called into the doctor's office. Now, he could not have possibly read my records in 5 minutes. And the first thing he says to me after he looks at my arm or my wrist is, he says, "Well, you need carpal tunnel surgery. Let's schedule it for 2 weeks." I walked out of that office and never went back and took all my records. I did not need carpal tunnel surgery. He just wanted to do carpal tunnel surgery. So I think when you go to a doctor nowadays, you better go for a second opinion, and find out. The hard thing is, this is how they make their money, and sometimes they're just telling you, hey, do it so we can make our money, not necessarily so you can feel good, and that bothered me. I don't know. I've been suspicious, and now I try to do due diligence for whatever I absolutely have to do, and if I don't have to do it, then I don't do it.
Well, I know that my wife, she went to this one doctor, and then she just didn't like him, because the guy's personality is really not the best bedside manner. Plus, he had people that you'd call up, and you'd try to ask them questions, and they were nasty on the phone. This is his staff.
Yeah.
So she finally said, "The hell with this. I'm going to go find another doctor." So she goes and finds this other doctor, and the other doctor basically said, "Why are you taking this? And why aren't you taking this?" And, and he said, "Look," he says, "this doctor has you on this." He says, "You shouldn't be on this." And, took her off that, and she loves this guy. And she says she feels a hell of a lot better. I've had doctors before that I had my blood test done, and the doctor went through my whole blood test, and he says, everything's fine. He says, your creatinine's a little high, and, your testosterone, your testosterone's high, and blah, 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 blah. And this other doctor, he read it, he says, "Your kidney function is perfect." He says, "Everybody would love to have he says, "I don't know what the guy's talking about." He says, "And your testosterone's low."
Huh.
He says,
so the guy was reading the report backwards.
Yeah. And the thing of it is that, I got two different, guys saying two different things. And, so he says, look, he's telling me testosterone, which I didn't know. And he said that, if you take a blood test, you really have to take 3 in one day to see what it is, because it's always changing. And he said that you can tell by if you have any symptoms, like if you're lethargic, you have low sex drive, you're fatigued, brain fog and things like that. He says, I get this all the time. And he says, we put people on testosterone therapy, and he says all that goes away. And he said, you go by your symptoms as well as just blood tests. So, these doctors, they just have, everybody, it's like an opinion.
Excuse me. Yeah, and I sometimes wonder, is it better to go to older doctors or younger doctors? Because nowadays they all seem younger. But I would think, hey, if they're younger, they've gotten the most recent advances in medical history, but what they lack is the experience, which the older doctors have. So then you kind of start to wonder, well, which doctor should I go to really get good advice? But now I'm thinking, anything that I question, I need a second opinion because I just don't know that I can trust one doctor anymore.
Yeah, I think it's like anything in life. There's so much incompetence in any field. I mean, in my field in dealing with lawyers, I mean, I can tell you flat out, 95% of attorneys couldn't spell law if you spotted them the L and the W. So, it's shocking that the level of incompetence. I know somebody, one time I said, I made this point, and I said that, this is just in every field. 95% of people in that field are just incompetent. And, I asked this person, they said, I don't believe that. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. What do you do for a living? Well, I'm a nurse. I said, okay. How many doctors in your field that you're in have privileges at that hospital? And she said about 200. I said, of those 200, how many would you let touch you? She goes, I don't know, maybe five. And I said, there's my point right there. 200, and you're telling me you only let 5 touch you. So
yeah,
you got to give second opinions and everything, and you got to use common sense, and don't leave your common sense at the door when you're dealing in anything.
I agree.
Have you received a notice of foreclosure on your property? Do you suspect that you're involved in an unfair or fraudulent loan agreement? Are you looking for a way to save your home? Would you like to cut through all the misinformation and find out what really works? Would you like to learn strategies that the so-called gurus aren't aware of? If you answered yes to any of those questions, a professional team at Mortgage Fraud Examiners can assist you and your attorney with all of these things and more. Contract breaches, errors, statutory regulatory violations, fraudulent appraisals, and other fraudulent conduct cause most mortgages to be legally problematic. In fact, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation found that nearly 2,000 financial institutions they assessed received citations for significant compliance violations. They also examined appraisals and found out that of the 259 appraisals reviewed for accuracy, only 7 fully complied with professional standards. Call us at 844-920-7200. That's 844-920-7200. Mortgage Fraud Examiners, 844-920-7200.
Okay, we're back on Fraudsters Radio, AM, FM 24/7. And do we have our special guest, Laurie, or where are we?
I hope so, Jason. Do we have D.Anthony Miles on the line? How are you?
Laurie, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. I've got my co-host with me today, Storm Bradford. And Storm, D.Anthony Miles, we did a show last week when you had your emergency. And this guy is the CEO and founder of Miles Development Industries Corporation. He is a PhD, and he's got a whole bunch of initials, the most I've ever seen after anybody's name. And he actually is a legal expert, Storm, so this is going to be a fun show because he can cover a lot of topics. But we today we picked the diploma mills and the fake college degrees. And D, I think that's a good subject because I remember years ago in the back of magazines, they used to offer these college degrees. I don't see them anymore. But, before I'm jumping ahead of myself here. For people who maybe didn't listen to us last week, tell us about you and your story and how you got into your business, and then we can cover the diploma mills.
Sure. D.Anthony Miles, award-winning professor, award-winning researcher, statistician, entrepreneur, my own consulting practice in the venture capital business. We go after government contracts. Best-selling author, been interviewed in Forbes, been interviewed in many media outlets, CBS News, NBC News. I'm on iTunes, been interviewed in major publications. I did a fake, and forgot to tell you this, Laurie, I did a profile interview on advertising tricks that are not illegal, but I talked about certain things and how people get duped when they in somewhat deceptive advertising, and that's pretty much my story, and that's it.
Okay,
well, I take it. I was going to say, I take it all those alphabet letters behind your name you didn't get through some diploma mill.
Oh no.
That was good,
so
Storm.
nice to meet you. Yeah, it's been quite a. I want to really thank the both of you for having me on for this show today, because I want to really dig deep and talk about this, because I think this show is needed to be heard by a lot of your listeners, because there's some really bad stories out here about fake college degrees and some of the things that I'm going to share with you that you will not believe. So you'll need a Bible and a seatbelt.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. There was a report, and it was like 5 to 10 years ago, and they said it was some enormous percentage. I think it was over like 60%, somewhere in the 65% range of people who worked for the federal government had used these fake diplomas.
Yeah, that was a big scandal. It was an embarrassment to the federal government. And one of the things is if you think about this, Storm and Lori, if you hire somebody with a fake degree and they lie about it, what else are they lying about, right? You know, to piggyback on what you asked me, Storm, there's a study out there that says over 61% of what's on somebody's resume is probably exaggerated or false. So that falls in line with that. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. The resume fraud is probably at an all-time high right now. That's a new topic you guys might want to bring an expert on. Not necessarily me, but resume fraud is really bad.
You know, I'm reading, I want to share with you guys, I'm reading an article here from LinkedIn Resume Fraud. Now, I'm not sure how old this article is. I don't see a date, but it says, research by Get Educated uncovered 457 LinkedIn members listing fake degrees from Rocheville University on their resumes, including an assistant vice president at Merrill Lynch Commodities, a language instructor at the University of Virginia, and a criminal justice consultant, retired from the Air Force of Special Investigations Chief Fraud Division. And then here's another one. Listen to this. Alameda University, which has been called the leading diploma mill in the United States by Alan Contreras, administrator of Oregon's Office of Degree Authorization, is listed even more frequently than Rocheville. Yeah, and it says a search of LinkedIn for professionals listing Alameda on their educational resumes yielded 1,791 results, and their alumni included the lead consultant forensic psychologist at a UK mental health facility, a systems engineer at NASA, and a contract manager at an aerospace firm in Denver. Okay, so those things frighten me right there. Those things frighten me.
Oh, Lori, I got two stories that'll put a hem in your dress. Okay? There's a story out there with a doctor that had a fake medical degree, and this is true. I don't know what state it was in. He had a fake medical degree, and the lady brought her daughter there to get treatment, and he misdiagnosed the lady's daughter, and then he prescribed some medicine to this woman, and to her daughter, excuse me. So the mother goes and picks up the prescription like anybody else would do from a pharmacy, and she gave her daughter the medication based on, what the doctor recommended. And this guy recommended the wrong medication to this young lady, to her daughter, and the daughter had an allergic reaction to the medication and died. Okay?
Oh, my gosh.
This is where it gets better. Yeah. Well, she went and obviously hired legal counsel, hired an attorney, found out that this guy had a fake medical degree, a fake MD, and had been practicing medicine, I think, 5 to 10 years.
Oh, my gosh.
Was the only way they found out about it. Oh, absolutely. This is scary. And until we have some legislation, this is going to keep happening. Yes, go ahead, Laurie.
I mean, Yeah, for the doctor part, though, usually they have to like here in Florida, we got the Department of Business and Professional Regulation.
Yeah, right.
Don't they? Well, I guess though anyone can hang anything on their walls. I know, like when you go to the doctor's office, they all have their diplomas up. But yeah, how do you coordinate that it's legitimately a doctor? Because usually doctors are associated with hospitals. I don't know.
Right.
I'm going to also tell you there was I'm not sure if the case you're talking about was in Florida, but I know not too long ago, I think in the next county over, a couple of weeks ago, another guy got arrested for something just like that. That he wasn't actually a doctor, but he was working as a doctor.
It seems to happen a little bit more in the medical field in terms of that, like, because, a lot of doctors have people that are working residency. My daughter's in medical school, that's why I know some of this. And a doctor may have some students that are trying to do their residency in his office, and a couple of students may lie and say they're going to a medical school, and then they say they did their residency here, and they completely lie about their background. But you're right, Laura. They do have a accrediting body that kind of, I wouldn't say manage, but I would say they look out for things like that, because if you don't have your medical degree, especially if it's from a non-accredited university, it's really hard to practice medicine in the United States. But here's where the kicker is. Somebody can get a fraudulent degree from outside of the country, and it looks legit, and people just say, well, it looks good to me, and they don't do their due diligence. And this is causing a lot of problems with HR departments, because now they're having to train people in HR how to spot fake college degrees or fake diplomas. It's really an art. You almost have to be trained, Laurie and Storm, to see differences between those degrees, because it's really hard. It's really hard. Very hard. You have to be trained.
Well, I'll tell you, I was in a foreign country, and I was talking to this driver. It was actually a driver, and I was talking to him, and I said, what's the university like here? And he goes, oh, the university's good. He says, it's world-renowned. And I said, oh, what kind of degrees can you get from here? He says, well, you can get a legal degree, medical degree. He says they basically do a little bit of everything. And I said, how much does it cost, to go here? And he thought I meant, what does it cost, to get this degree, not what it costs a year to go to school. And I said, how much does it cost? And he goes, it depends how soon you want it.
Oh my gosh!
I said, run that past me again. He said, it depends on how soon you want it. So I said, what if I want it next week? Oh, that's going to cost a hell of a lot more than what they normally charge. So you can literally get something out of this university. And I've seen the university is known.
Oh my God! Huh. I heard there's a foreign country. I don't know the name of it right now. Who can? You know how you have graduate from Harvard, the Ivy League schools. They could actually get a degree, put the Ivy League school on there, and you would not be able to tell between that and the original. That's how elaborate they've gotten with this. It is crazy. So and they have some companies that can provide fake transcripts too. That's the other part of it.
Oh my! Yeah, but wait a minute. If someone goes to, go ahead, Storm. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, but why, if someone said that I went to law school here and then they have transcripts, all they'd have to do is call the law school.
Right.
Okay. True. But let me tell you how good these people have gotten, because remember, the diploma mills have been around since the Civil War, believe it or not. Okay?
Oh, I believe
it. You don't think they perfected this fraud over time? Because obviously with the internet and desktop publishing, they could make a fraudulent fake degree look legit, and somebody can hang it up in their wall, like with that doctor that caused that untimely parent's child's death. Most people don't go into establishment and go, let me see your degree or let me see you graduate from. It's just not in us to do that as Americans. I mean, we just don't do that. And one of the problems is if you hire somebody, and this is the downside of all of this, if you hire somebody and you don't do your due diligence, your company can be liable for that, any damage that person caused that worked for you, you will be considered legally liable because you didn't do your due diligence. And getting back to what you were talking about, Storm, on a law degree, they have some companies that they have a 1-800 number. They can send you the transcripts, and unless you have a trained eye, you can't tell if they're fake transcripts or not. They're really that good. They're that good.
You would think that these people would call and double check, not just take something on face value, because I think a lot of people know that these diploma mills are scams. Well, you would think that they'd double check, but obviously they don't.
Yeah, we were actually talking about with a couple of my colleagues talking about doing a workshop at an HR conference. You would be surprised the people that work in HR how unskilled they are at these type of things. And there's the other side of it, Lori and Storm, where say if you got a buddy, right, and I work at a company, right, and my buddy tells me he has a degree, say he has a PhD or whatever. I say, do you have a PhD? Yeah. And I don't bother to check, and I slip him in a crack. He gets hired unless there's an expose and a publication online. I would have never known that he had graduated from a fake university. That happened at the university that I graduated from, where I got my doctorate. We had a professor that had all of his degrees from a fake university. I mean, not one, not two, but all three. This guy won Professor of the Year. He had been teaching there 10 years before they found out he had a fake college degree, and the university was so embarrassed that they didn't make a big deal about it. They quietly removed him from the catalogs. They removed his office. If you asked about him, nobody knew anything because they were embarrassed. It was very embarrassing. And you see that happen all the time.
That is, and you know what? Let's do a quick commercial break. We'll come back because we got a lot to cover. So stay with us.
Oh, absolutely.
There is a very high likelihood your mortgage contains an extensive error. At Mortgage Fraud Examiners, we know just how costly a missed opportunity can be. For almost 40 years, we have consulted, retained, and referred to by attorneys, lawyers, trial practitioners throughout the nation. Put another way, we are the trusted source for litigation support. A foreclosure is basically an allegation the homeowner breached the contract by failing to make timely payments. The contract is clear. The borrower promised they would make timely payments, and if they didn't, the lender could take the property. The only way to overcome the homeowner's breach is to show the lender breached first, identify errors that would void the contract, identify regulatory violations, identify appraisal fraud and other fraudulent contact, and the only way to find these wrongs is to thoroughly examine the whole mortgage transaction. This meticulous examination of your mortgage transaction and appraisal can identify legal defects that would make your mortgage unenforceable and entitle you to compensation or even free title to your property. Call us at 844-920-7200. Mortgage Fraud Examiners. That's 844-920-7200. 844-920-7200.
Okay, we're back on Fraudsters Radio at 24/7 AM FM radio, and we're on with our special guest today. And do they call you D?
You call me D. That's fine.
Yeah, I thought, Laura, you told me that you as D. Yeah, D. Yep. I was going to say, and I know, Laura, this is something near and dear to your heart. I know years ago there was one of these credit repair guys, and he had a friend that worked at one of the credit bureaus. And and so what happened was, because she was in that industry, she was at the one credit bureau, she had a friend at another credit bureau and had a friend at another credit bureau. And what this guy was doing was, he was paying these people to go in and change these reports for people. Like they go in and they have all this stuff, they change it, and this guy's killing it. And and then finally,
good pricing for that.
And then finally, I forgot what happened, but one of his own clients that got their record cleaned turned him in, and so he got nailed.
No honor among thieves.
Yeah, and the other people got nailed. But I know the same thing in colleges. I know that they had people that worked in certain departments would go in there and literally create, create this person, or not create the person, but have this person and create transcripts for them from that college. So
yes,
this was coming. You could call the college and look it up. They said, do you have a D.Anthony Miles there? And, did he go to your school and blah, 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 blah. They go check the transcripts. Oh, yeah. You mean Dr. Miles. Yeah, that's who I'm talking about. And but in that instance, this was all fake, and I'm sure it goes on.
It goes on a lot more, Storm, than we like to admit. But I'll say this: there's been some legislation that's been passed by the Federal Trade Commission about trying to regulate some of these schools, because there are 10 states where it's illegal. And let me be clear, and I say this: there are 10 states where it's illegal to use a diploma mill in your credentials. Okay, there's Washington, there's Oregon, there's Nevada, there's North Dakota, there's South Dakota, there's Texas, Illinois, Maine, New Jersey, and Virginia. Now you're probably saying, well, what's wrong with the other 40 states?
Yeah.
When George Bush was in office, when they were trying to legislate this against fake college degrees and diploma mills, he made it a state's issue. So he allowed the states to do what they wanted to about handling the problem. So what if somebody lobbies for diploma mill freedom, or they don't call it diploma mills, obviously in the industry, they may say educational freedom. Education is just not within the college walls. You have online schools. You have experiential learning. Well, some states, if depending on who the lobbyist is in that state, may look the other way with something like that, because there's a lot of money involved with this. So it hurts the credential of having a college degree. And there's the other part. I don't know if you ever heard this, Storm and Lori. There's something called degree mills. Do you know what those are? Because I'll tell you, it's going to surprise you.
I thought they were the same thing.
Kind of, but not quite. A degree mill is a degree from a regular university that is a university, but the degree is worthless because the school has given that degree to so many people. So when people have that degree and apply for a job, that degree has no market value. You didn't expect that one, did you?
No.
What kind of degrees?
You can go basket weaving. I'll give you an example, and I hope I don't get shot after this. If you can get a PhD in most anything now, but there's a degree that they're giving that most of the people getting out of school with, and I had read an article in the Crown of Education on this. Getting a PhD in the field of leadership is pretty much considered a commodity or not a really strong degree. Okay?
Now, let me ask you, do you actually go to school for this, or do you?
Yeah, you go to regular college like everybody else. Yeah, you go to school like everybody else. And let me tell you why it's a problem. I know of about 10 doctoral programs that offer the degree in leadership. It's a nebulous degree. Some people get it to try to get into the academic world. Some people get it to say they just have a doctorate. It's very hard to get a degree with it because, you remember, you're competing with so many other schools that have that same degree. So when you have a school that's pumping out all of these degrees and a lot of the degrees are worthless, you would call them a degree mill, okay? And that happens. That happens.
And I'm going to read you a funny one here. This is also from the LinkedIn article from that Rocheville University. It says
Rochelle.
Rochelle. Okay. It says that they awarded an MBA to Vermont dog Chester Ludlow for $499. A dog got so.
Lordy.
You know what? People will try just to see what will happen. And I think that's what they do. They just do it to see what will happen, and they know that no one's really going to check on it, going to check on your actual degree. So it makes you wonder, I mean, these people probably that are buying them probably feel that, oh my God, I've got to have this degree, but I don't have the time or money to put into it. But I'm never going to make any money if I don't have this degree. And then they go out and buy it. And then I read something, Dee, about like the quality of the paper that it's on makes a big difference in like whether it looks like it's real or it looks fake. Like, you know, I guess it's very difficult to mimic the exact degree from a school. I don't know if they're doing it by hand, because, you know, it used to be done by hand, getting more and more sophisticated.
Oh, absolutely. And here, I'm going to piggyback on what you just said, Lori. There's a service called, I believe they say you lose your degree in a fire or whatever, they actually do this for universities. Well, what they'll do is they'll replicate your degree, and it'll look like it's a brand new degree, just like you had if the original one that was destroyed or lost. Well, think about this. What if somebody works there, kind of like what Storm was saying, and somebody pays them to get a degree from a replication service? That happens too. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but how often do you go? Do you go into a job interview and do you throw your diploma down? I say it's just, you know, you send in your resume and you say, look, I got a degree in business from the University of Maryland, and that's what's on your resume. And usually when you go into circumstances like that, you know, somebody that's interviewing you for a sales job or something like that, they're not going to ask you about your schooling or anything like that. They're just going to say, can this guy sell or not? And
absolutely. Remember
so
what I talked.
Yeah, go ahead.
Remember what I talked about earlier? Most people that do hiring in HR, especially like what you were talking about, Storm, they're inexperienced at either hiring people or investigating people that have fake college degrees because they're not trained to do it. So a trained eye, if you told them I graduated from Regis University or St. Regis University, they're like, oh, that sounds like a legitimate Catholic school. So that untrained person is actually doing a disservice because you're not addressing that at the at the beginning stage of the due diligence. So that has a considerable amount of time. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in here again and read you a little bit more. It says it says only 34% of employers check the educational qualifications listed on resumes, according to a 2004 study by the Society for Human Resource Management. And this is 2004, even though the association found that 25% of people inflated their educational achievements on resumes. So it's saying, let's see here, most schools only check a student's attendance or graduation dates. Almost none check whether the university itself is properly accredited. And it says that most employers are confused about college accreditation because all degree mills are accredited. The trick is that they are accredited by fake agencies that they themselves have created.
Absolutely.
So if there's only 10 states that have, outlawed it, if you're in one of the other 40 states, it's okay. Hey, go get it, because no one's going to check.
Yeah, exactly. And what do you think those people do that know about those 10 states? What do you think they do? They go move it to the other 40 states that have lax laws about that, and they slip through the cracks. And that's why that article about those people that graduated with the federal government, that had to have happened outside of Washington, D.C. That had to have happened in the other 40 states that have civil service jobs, military.
But, Dee, which is striking, they didn't fire any of those employees.
No, that's the bad part about
this. They kept them on, so it's almost like cheating. Wins. It's like, for an example, you have people who, and not to be political, but I mean, you have people that come in legally into this country as an immigrant, and then you have people who come in illegally.
Right.
If the person coming in illegally gets the same benefits of the person that had to work hard and come in come into the country and be a citizen, it's not fair. It's like somebody like you in this vein. You did all the work. You had to go to college. You had to work to get your PhD. But here's somebody that gets to go to one of these states, to one of these diploma mills or whatever the case may be, and they have a PhD, and it's not fair that they get to have the same fruits of life that you do, and that's why, people that are against this illegal immigration are against that for that very same reason. You don't have to do anything except be a cheater and get the same thing that the people have that work for it. It's not fair.
I totally agree with that. That says something about our society in America that says that money, if you have money, you can bend the rules. If somebody, now, we didn't talk about this earlier. Do you know how much people pay to get a PhD or MBA from some of these diploma mills? You'd be surprised.
No.
A bachelor's, I believe, is $5,000. A
Whoa.
MBA is either maybe $7,000 to $8,000. A PhD could be $10,000 to $15,000. And
oh my God,
that's one person, right? How many people, if they know about a particular diploma mill and they're doing hundreds and thousands of people, you're talking about a nice little industry there. So yeah, the guy's behind in his career. It's easy for him to go give somebody $10,000, takes it out of retirement, and go get a PhD. Well, he paid for it, right? He worked, I guess.
But he didn't do the work. But I'm going to jump in, guys. We got to do one more commercial break. When we come back, maybe you could explain how companies who hire people can make sure that somebody has a real degree. Let's talk about that. So we'll be back in just a moment.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, stay with us.
Okay.
Consumers, do you have bad credit? Can't purchase a house or car? Paying too much in interest on your credit cards and loans? Scammed by credit repair companies? There is hope. You can get back on track and do it the right way. Call Credit Education Consultants today at 813-500-6064. That's 813-500-6064. Or go to crediteducationconsultants.com now and get the help you need. Don't delay. Call today. Mortgage reps and realtor inquiries are also welcomed.
Okay, we're back on Fraudsters Radio at AM/FM 24/7 station, and with our special guest, D.Anthony Miles, and we've been discussing about diploma mills and how they're a big scam. I was going to comment on the last comment about getting a PhD costs $10,000, $15,000. Well, I know one thing, that's a hell of a lot cheaper than what you paid.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so considering what you had to pay to get yours versus $10,000 or $15,000, that's watch pocket money.
I think that's a fair assessment. I would agree
and
with
that's why they do it, and that's how they can get away with it and get the money. And I'm sure that's part of what their sales pitch is. I mean, you got kids going to school. I got 5 kids that had to go to college, and you're talking $25,000 a pop a year.
I believe it. Yeah. I got
10 or 15.
Like they fair. I got 2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would be mad if I were you, Dee, to know that people have these fake. I'd be like hunting them down, going, wait a minute, I actually earned it and you didn't, and you're making the same money, and wow, something's wrong. So how can employers really do the due diligence and make sure that the person that they're hiring has a legitimate degree? Is there a list of fake schools and a list of real schools? How do you protect yourself?
Before you answer that, Dee, I want to dovetail on what she just said. The question from her was how do you find out? My question to you is, could people contact you and you find out for them?
I'm really not trained in that area. I mean, even though I've done research on it, but I could narrow it down from there. Let me give you some tips. And let's just say somebody, it just hits them in 3:00 in the morning and they didn't want to call me right yet. There's about 5 things you can do. Okay. When you look for a degree, you can, let's say a PhD. That's probably the best example. If you want to look for somebody with a fake doctorate, what you want to do is look on ProQuest. ProQuest is a national database that has mostly everybody from every school that everybody graduated from the United States. if a person says they have a PhD, they most likely have had to have done a dissertation. If they completed a PhD and they said a PhD, the doctoral program, and they completed a dissertation, because you have to do the dissertation to get the PhD. If their dissertation is not listed, school is not listed, that's probably a diploma mill. Okay? Second thing, and this is for the HR people, if you see someone that graduated from schools that are away from where they live, because most people go to school where they live. Like I live in San Antonio, Texas. All of my degrees are from San Antonio. In the San Antonio area, we have a lot of colleges and universities here. So if someone applies for a job with you and their degrees are from places that are out of the country, that's a red flag. That's probably a diploma mill. And the other part of that is, the third thing is if their degree's out of sequence. Now, this is where this guy got busted. I don't know if you've heard of this, Lori and Storm. This guy got a BA before he got his, he got a master's degree before he got his BA. You can't.
Backwards.
And you have people that because they're uneducated about school, they're used to just buying a degree to get what they want. If somebody looks at the data and see that you got your master's degree before you got your BA, that's a red flag right there. And vice versa with a PhD. You can't get one before the other. They have to follow a sequential order. Okay?
Well, what's funny, though, is, there's a lot of people now, they're saying that it's not even beneficial to go to college because you're stuck with student debt. Matter of fact,
right.
We're beginning to analyze these student debt loans, and there's $166 billion in serious delinquent student loans, where these kids are going to school, they've got $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 debt in student loans, and I know one day years ago I had a guy. He called himself a financial advisor. And this guy came driving up to my house in this old beat-up Volvo with rust, cancer all over it, comes in with a Kmart suit on, and he's a financial advisor. And I said, let me ask you a question. I said, you're a financial advisor? And he goes, yeah, I have an MBA. And I said, well, I got a BMW in my driveway. But let me tell you something, my friend. You come driving up here in that piece of crap car in this Kmart suit, I think I ought to be advising you on your finances. So, lots of times, you have people that have degrees that, they went to school, but they didn't get an education. And they just kind of...
That's what my professor told me in school, piggyback on what you just said, Storm. He says some people have a BA, but some people know how to BS.
Right.
Okay.
He's right.
Yeah.
You gotta have academic education as well as street education, and both of them are important. And you got a lot of people that graduate from school, and you talk about the student loan debt. Well, you have to treat school like an apprenticeship. You have to find industries that are abundant in your field. Are you just getting a degree because you want to work for somebody? Are you getting a degree because you want to go into a field that's a new emerging field that you can make a lot of money? A lot of people go to school for the wrong reason. That's why they get a lot of student loan debt. They don't have a plan when they go to school, kind of what you're saying, Storm. And it's getting to be to a point, everybody doesn't need to have a college degree. Okay? And that's what we're arriving at right now in our society. A college degree is no longer the silver bullet for everybody to reach prominence. When I was doing my dissertation, I met a guy when I was doing my work, my research, my doctoral research on business risk. I met a guy that owned I think it was a Wingstop franchise. He only had a high school diploma, and he was a millionaire. That was a very awkward conversation to have with him.
Yeah.
Very awkward.
Well, I got a friend of mine. My best friend's little brother is worth $200 million, and never went to college. Never went to college. Matter of fact, I'll take that back. He went to college and flunked out his first year, and his parents said, okay, we're not paying for you to go to school anymore, and he's worth a couple $100 million now. So I agree with you.
Yeah, but some people figure out without a college degree how they're gonna make money. Those are more of the entrepreneurship type people. But most people, I think, follow the regular route. And I'm still reading this article here that says, I guess the fellow who wrote it says more than 75% of people in the United States who buy fake degrees know exactly what they are doing. A real online MBA costs more than $35,000. But it can raise your earning potential by $10,000 per year. So if you get a fake MBA for less than $500 in under 30 days, and you qualify instantly for a $10,000 raise, well, that's more financial temptation than many can tolerate. So a lot of people just go the easy way out, But you would think at some point that degree, especially if it's a PhD or an MBA, at some point in their career, somebody's just going to figure out that they don't know anything. I mean, does that happen? That they just figure out they don't know what they say?
Lori, there's a story, and this is a famous case. I believe it was in Canada. There was a guy that was an engineer that did the plans for this building, okay? And they looked his credentials up. He said he had a degree from this university. This is a famous case. Well, they had an earthquake over there or something, and the building collapsed and killed like 100 to 200 people. So when they went, people go to get attorneys and go see what's up with that. So they went and got the families got attorneys, went and looked this guy up, found out that this guy lied about his degree. He lied, said he actually copied somebody else's degree. He committed degree fraud. He took somebody else's degree, put his name over it, said he graduated from this school. He was one of the chief engineer to help design this building, and the building crashed and killed all these people. And the company got sued for who hired him because they didn't do their due diligence. That piggybacks to what I said earlier. If you hire someone who doesn't have the correct credentials and the licensing, now he even faked his licensing, I think. If you do not do your due diligence, you will be liable for a lawsuit. And you can't pass that buck to anybody else. You can't say that it was a corporation that you're not liable because your HR department dropped the ball, so you are considered liable. So what do you tell those families of those people that 100 people died in that building that collapsed? That they didn't do their due diligence.
Right, exactly.
Exactly, right.
Well, I want to thank you. You've given us a lot of great information. How can people get a hold of you? Yeah, how can people get a hold of you, D?
Sure, I'm all over social media. I'll give you my email. My email is dmiles@mdicorpventures.com. And I have a lot of free materials on ResearchGate. Like I have materials about fake college diplomas, some workshops that I've done. Did a workshop on multi-level marketing. That's probably the most popular one. But I have a lot of free materials. If people go to my website on ResearchGate, I have all kind of materials of conferences that I've done. I do that to share with people, so give them some insight on, preventive things that they can look out for.
Well, what's good about you, D, is, and I can tell this. I mean, I've got a pretty good knack for knowing people and how good they are at something. You not only have the academics, but what makes you even better than somebody that has some academics. I mean, you have some of these people that have the academics and they're overeducated fools. You, though, you're a street guy that got a PhD. So you know how the normal guy is on the street. You know how normal people work. You're not this academium up here in an ivory tower that's looking down on everybody that I'm smarter than you are. The way that you hold yourself, the way that you come across that you're speaking to the people because you're a street guy that happens to have a PhD, which I think is, I wish there was more street guys that had PhDs, and if there were, we'd be in a hell of a lot better shape in this country.
Yeah.
Oh, Storm, I really appreciate you giving me that compliment because I've been fighting that for so long. We have a problem in a lot of schools that we have people They're too much of academics without practitioners. They don't ever practice their craft. And a lot of times, if you talk about the reverse part of diploma bills, a lot of times these professors get hired, they never had a real job. So how can you talk about your craft if you never practiced it in the jungle? So I try to stay grounded in both worlds. I really appreciate the compliment. I try to see both sides of the fence, the non-academic and the academic, because you need both of them. You definitely need both.
Yeah. And you know, Storm, I mean, this is the second time Dee's been back, and I'm sure we'll have him back again because I know he's got other topics too. So I want to. That's all right. You could scare us. It's good. It helps the people, Dee. You know, it really does. I want to thank you. We both want to thank you for joining us today, Storm. Thanks for being here. Some great questions. And we want to thank our listening audience for listening to Fraudsters Radio. You can join us again next Monday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time live. And remember, we do want to hear your stories. You can contact us through the Fraudsters Radio Facebook page. So, guys, we're over and out for now. And thanks again, Dee.
Okay. Enjoy your week.
Laurie, thank you so much, Storm. So nice to meet you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure.
All
we
right.
enjoyed it as well. Enjoy your week. I'm out.
Thank you. You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.